Streaming from outside the mainstream, Beyond the Pale, the podcast, hosted by Paleface.
I am truly inspired by today's guest. She is an author, life coach, speaker, and much more. Dr. Michelle Kuei, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Philip. It's so exciting to be here.
It's so great to have you. So, Michelle, you have led a life that's courageous. Can you please share some of your story with my audience?
Of course. This is my life. So I hold on tight because I'm going to come right in.
Okay.
So this is going to be a rough ride. So the journey started when I was 11 years old. One day I was coming out from school. I was crossing the street. I was waiting for my mom to come and pick me up. And as I was crossing the street, there was a car that was driving really fast and coming towards me, but I didn't see it and I didn't notice it until when I woke up, I was already in the hospital. And after the car accident, I spent 4 years going through rehab, going through multiple surgery because both my hip bone, it was broken. So in order to secure my hip bone, my doctor had to wrap me with the plasters all around from my waist all the way to my ankles. I woke up, I was feeling trapped, and I was trapped. And I realized that, wow, no school anymore. Yay, for 11-year-old, I felt, well, it's great. You know, I don't have to go to school and I get to spend some time at home. But little did I know that after that car accident, I had to start learning how to walk because after 3 months, you know, you basically you start from scratch. So when they took off the plaster, I didn't know how to walk anymore. And I had to learn how to walk. So my parents sent me to one of these rehab centers in Taiwan. I grew up in Taiwan. I was there up until I was 15 years old. And so during those times where I had to spend during the rehab center, I was living there by myself. They had these rules that was set up. Parents can only visit their child during the weekend. So I spent majority of the time in my childhood, from 11 to 15, by myself, going in and out of surgery. So if I were to count the number of surgery that I have gone through and the scars that's left on my legs, I counted it was 11. So on both sides. And I remember a couple of times when I went into the surgery, you know, the doctor was like, well, you know, since you're here already, that just operate on both sides. So oftentimes when I flip over my photo album, I can still see those pictures where I have both legs, you know, covered in plaster and I'm in wheelchair. For a little kid, you know, honestly, it wasn't something as traumatic. It was very, oh, great. You know, I'm learning how to adapt. I'm learning how to use wheelchair. Not many people out there, you know, they get to sit in a wheelchair. How fun is that? Slowly, when I got to my teenage year, I felt that wasn't the case. You know, I noticed that people are staring at me. And the reason why they are staring at me is because I started to walk funny. My doctor had given me a pair of these metal bracelets, and he told me that, Michelle, you know, because you're still growing, so these are the shoes, these are the protective gear I want you to wear up until you're 18 when you stop growing, so that your bone can grow straight. And I said, okay. And I was looking at them, and they're heavy, they're ugly. I was 16. I wanted to start wearing these mini skirt, and I'm in the 90s, you know, 80s and 90s, where the hair and the makeup, the hair was like that you have to like hair blow it in certain ways. I wanted to be that. I don't want to wear these ugly metal shoes. So I started, that peer pressure start kicking in. I start noticing people are watching when I walk. People are staring at me, and people are treating me very differently because of how I look. And I am 4 feet 4 inches tall, so very short, very petite. sometimes when I go to the shopping mall with my mom, if I walk in between those clothing the clothing racks, my mom would not see me because I'm buried. That's how short I am.
Hmm.
And being different is something that I have always struggled with, because I believe no one wants to be different. I believe every one of us wants to belong to something. We constantly finding our tribe. We're constantly finding our group. We want to be able to connect with our friends and finding where we can belong. And I remember growing up from my teenage year, going into college, going into graduate school, I always had that feeling of, I don't belong here. I don't belong in my friends' conversation. When they talk about, oh, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to run, I'm going to jump, I'm going for a hike, I don't belong in any of those conversations. And when people are talking about sports is big here in America, and I cannot participate in any of this sports conversation. I don't belong in there. I don't belong in the conversation of fashion, because when I look into the mirror, I am short, my legs are crooked, I walk with crutches. I don't belong in fashion. And when I look around, yes, I have this education that my parents given me the opportunity to go to. I have a job that can sustain me, but there's something that was missing that I was looking for. There's something that makes me feel very disconnected to the rest of the world. So I remember sometimes, I would sit at home and I would think about, well, maybe, I came from another planet. Maybe I was an immigrant from another planet out somewhere, and that's where my home is. So when there's times where I saw TV, they're talking about the UFO and discovery, and maybe there's a Stargate somewhere that you can actually teleport yourself to another place. I thought, well, wouldn't that be nice? Because then I can go somewhere where I belong. So that sense of belonging was huge for me. And I spent a lot of time, just dwelling on those feelings of, I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. No one likes to hang out with me. No one wants to be with me. And hence my relationship, or the lack of relationship, has always been a really big challenge for me. So going through that life, it was not something that's very uplifting, and that's not something that I would look forward to. I think remembering back those days, the biggest win for me during those years, the biggest win was just to be able to wake up in the morning and knowing that I am awake. That's good enough.
Right.
I wasn't looking for any accomplishment. I wasn't looking for any ambitious goals. I was just wanted to get through my day and just get it over with. That's how much it sucks. And so with that, one day, and this is the part where I believe that all of us, there's something inside of us. There's a light. I call it even as faint as a flickering candle light. You may not see it, but it's there. And I think that was my light that was inside of me that woke me up one morning. And when I woke up that morning, I said, well, Michelle, you're 40 years old. You're 40 years old. Maybe you were lucky enough to live till 80. You got another 40 years to go. What do you want to do about this? Can you feel the same way that you are feeling now? That depression, that feeling sorry for yourself, that feeling of not being good enough. Do you want to feel that way for the next 40 years? And I kept asking myself, why? Why does the accident happen only to me? And why do I have to spend my entire life to do this? Like, why can't it be just someone else? So I was in that victim mentality of things happen to me and it only happened to me. So I was in that mindset and it just kept racing. And then finally that light just turned on. And it was a series of different experiences that led to that point where it was a light switch that just turned on. And I said, no, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to spend the next 40 years feeling sorry for myself.
Right.
I don't want to spend the next 40 years just not having a purpose. What is my purpose? Like, why am I here? So this is what I believe. I believe why is a very powerful question.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most powerful question in English, and it leads to the most powerful answer in English. And it only comes in 2 words. Do you want to take a guess what that 2 words are?
What are those 2 words?
I am.
I am. Ooh, that's very yeah, I love that.
I am is very powerful. Why are we here? Because I am. Because I am possible. And you can attach you can follow I am to anything, and it's going to make you just that. I am possible. I am capable. I am amazing. So I am is really the 2 most powerful words in English. So I found
when
out.
you said I am amazing, those are the exact words that I thought of you as amazing.
But I didn't believe it. And this is where a lot of us, we struggle on. We don't believe, or we choose not to believe who we are. We decide that somewhere along the line, we were given a formula, we were given a recipe for life. We go through kindergarten, elementary school, high school, college, graduate school, job, getting married, having kids, making more money for yourself, making more money for your next generation. We go through that formula, but little do we know that along that formula, if you're lucky enough, you may be successful. But most of us are not the case. We fall off the track. And when you fall off the track, you start to question yourself. Am I good enough for this? Am I supposed to be doing this? Am I meant to do this job? Things like that. So you go into that perpetuate cycle of self-doubt and questioning and worry and frustration, and something is not working. But we don't choose to believe that we have the ability to do things well. And look at how far that we have come.
Right. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, is to talk about that negative self-talk and how we can actually overcome it. So, Michelle, why do you think that humans are so susceptible to that inner negative self-talk? What is it about us?
I believe, so as I mentioned earlier, the recipe in life, right? So we are conditioned to believe the world as it is. And I think the most exact description came from Truman Show. I grew up familiar with the Truman shows. So the Truman Show from starring Jim Carrey, right?
Right. That's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in the movie, there was a quote. The quote says that we perceive the world, we perceive the reality of the world as we are presented.
Right.
So our reality, that the reality that we see currently, we believe this is it. And we have expectation. Humans are not conditioned to be this way. We are infinite possibility. We were born with infinite possibility. So when you put an outside source into a confined box, this source is going to start to believe that this box is all there is. It's all there to be seen. So there's true human potential that's already in there, but we're being conditioned by the society's beliefs and culture and all these negativity, all these expectations from our parents, from our grandparents, from our teacher, from everyone that we know of. They want to change us, and they want to make us believe that their reality is our reality. And if you're highly conscious, you become separated from that reality. And this is where people start questioning themselves. Wait, this is not for me. This is not the life I want. This is different. I don't want this. I don't want to go to medical school. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be a doctor, even though the society believes that being a doctor and lawyer supposedly is going to make you have a better life.
Right.
But that's not for me. That is not for me, because each individual is very different and very unique. So oftentimes, the idea for many of us who are familiar with going from 0 to 60, that is how we're supposed to see things, right?
Right.
But my principle, my philosophy is we have to start learning on how to go from 60 to 0.
Oh, that's a flip.
We have to flip it, because instead of looking at the outer world, everything that is around you happened inside of you. It came from inside of you.
Right.
So take care of the inner world, then your outer world will be so much easier to respond.
Wow.
Instead of react.
So talking about that inner world. So can you talk about how daily affirmation is a way to fight back against that self-doubt? Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the daily affirmation, it's about feeding our brain with these positive words, positive energy. And our brain is made by these little tiny neurons that send out transmitters. And these transmitters are new chemicals. They're chemicals where they get stimulated by something that makes us happy, that makes us joyful. And the more, which is why a lot of people will go to the gym, because when you go to the gym, it stimulates your hormone release, it increases your dopamine. And dopamine is your happy hormone, and it's going to make you a lot happier and jollier. And that was how I overcame my physical challenge. I decided, I'm going to do something about my physical thing, because physical challenge is my challenge. So I'm going to challenge my physical challenge by going to the gym. So
unfortunately for me, it's chocolate.
Chocolate. Well, we can talk about chocolate. It's okay. Chocolate. Yeah. So by sending out more these positive hormones, your brain starts to pick up the signal that, oh yeah, this is happy. I can relate to this, and I'm enjoying this. Our body actually respond in such a way that it also relate to happiness, relate to joy. So positive affirmation will feed our brain these positive energy, so that you will feel less draining, feel more happier, feel positive in going into the direction that you want. Now, the trick is, because that's the whole principle behind the law of attraction, right? So what you think, you become. And that's the primary theme behind the law of attraction. Now, the thing where people may get stuck is, well, sometimes I just really don't feel like getting up, and I don't really feel these positive words. What do I do? And that has to do when you find those moments where you're just really feeling like, I don't want to use that word because I don't know how clean your podcast is.
It's clean, but you can say the odd one if you need to.
Sometimes you just don't feel like, So what do? You don't want to use these positive words. So what you do is, those moments typically are coming with judgments.
Right.
So a lot of what we do, what we say, has to do with judging ourselves and also judging others. When you're judging yourself, you're probably criticizing yourself. Well, I shouldn't be eating that piece of chocolate. Well, that chocolate is really bad for me. I shouldn't be eating it. Well, what if we release the judgment? Let's not judge it. Chocolate is chocolate. And your body is in need for a chocolate. Maybe your sugar is low.
Oh, it is, baby. Believe me.
Right. So instead of judging, chocolate being bad, how about let's reframe it, let's rephrase it, and say it in a more neutral way. So a lot of time when I work with clients, I tell them, don't force yourself to say a positive affirmation. But instead, what you want to do is come up with something that's more neutral. Something that's more neutral. Chocolate is just a piece of chocolate. And what you can say to yourself in that moment of time, when you're eating that chocolate, you can say, well, between the fruit and the chocolate, I feel maybe the fruit is healthier for me right now. My body needs some water. let me give it some hydration and we'll see. So it's a more neutral way of looking. What
that's
was
great.
that?
That's a great insight. Wow. That's a great insight.
Yeah. So instead of judging chocolate being bad, I'm just, I'm not going to judge chocolate. I'm just going to see the fact and pick which one feels more right to me.
Right. That's a great way to do it.
It could be chocolate, and it could be chocolate, and that's
or it
okay.
could be that orange or that watermelon. It could be that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be remiss if I did not ask you about, so you talked about not being good at sports and you talked about being in crutches, but I want to talk to you. What then made you want to climb a over 7,000 feet above sea level Inca in the Machu Picchu? What made you want to do that, to conquer one of the seven wonders of the world?
So it was about my physical challenge. I was really tired of feeling sorry for myself, and I told myself, Michelle, you have two options in front of you. You can sit here and you can continue to feel sorry about yourself, or you can join the conversation. Because when I started to decided to climb Machu Picchu was the time where all my friends came back from Machu Picchu, and they were all talking about how amazing it is, how spiritual it is, and they're going up to the mountain. It was just amazingly beautiful. I want to be able to see that for myself. And I want to believe that I am capable of doing things just like everyone else. And which is why I titled my book Perfectly Normal, because I didn't feel that I was normal. I feel I'm this abnormal person here and I don't go anywhere. So in order for me to feel normal, I need to prove to myself that I can do something just like everyone else. And so that year in 2016, I decided, I'm just going to see what I can do. I'm going to train. So I hired myself a personal trainer. I was working with a personal trainer for a year, and I told him, listen, this is my goal. I need you to help me with that. And so he started training, he started working on me. And the following year, I booked myself a ticket and I went up to the mountain, trekked through 26 miles on my two crutches. And I remember the last day when I was looking up to the last 50 steps in heading into the Machu Picchu site. I was standing there and I said, holy macaroni. How am I going to get up there? And I was hungry. I was tired. My arm was killing me because when I walk, it's all push-ups. It's all, landing one crutches at a time. Right. And it's so I'm really strong on the upper body. And that's how I do it. Doing a lot of push-up. I was exhausted. My wrist was hurting. It was ready to break. And I'm standing there and I said, well, here I am. There's no way to go back. I don't want to just stand here for the rest of my life. So I looked to the guy that I was tracking with. I said, here. I gave him my two crutches. I took off my backpack, and then I got down to my knees and hand. And each step, it was about the length of my leg. So I had trouble lifting my leg because they're really short, and I can only bend not even up till 90 degrees. So I really literally, in order for me to get up there, I had to get on my hands and knees and I had to crawl up. So I crawled up to the last 50 steps. And people ask me, like, Michelle, what was going on in your mind during those last 50 steps? And I told them all I was thinking about was, I want a hamburger. That's all I could think about. I was hungry. I was exhausted. I was ready to go home, but it felt good.
Did you get your hamburger?
I did.
That's glad. I'm glad.
I did. That was the first thing when I came back to Cusco in Peru. Yeah, ordered myself a big fat hamburger.
Oh, that's great. I love that. So, Michelle, is there anything else that you would like to share with my listeners before we close out the show today?
Yeah, I think, knowing where you want to go is great. Having a destination is great, but and so often that we wish that we have this touch button that we can press, and it would just take us there. But what I want to leave everyone with is life is a journey, and you have to take it. You have to travel down that path. There is no fast track. There is no shortcut. There is no other way around but traveling down on that path. And along that path, this is what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on all these people around you. And this is one of my biggest values in life, is that connection. For a long time, I felt really alone because I forgot that there's all these people around me who was celebrating me, who was championing me, who was there for me the whole entire time. But I was so focused on all the tragedy that had happened, what had happened to me as the victim of my circumstances. So I want you to look around you. Where is your tribe? Who are your people? And how can you strengthen that relationship with them? With your courage, with your vulnerability, being open and share exactly how you feel, whether it's good, whether it's bad, because you'll be surprised how many people will be there to catch you when you fall.
Oh, wow. That's just beautiful. So I encourage all my listeners to visit Michelle's website, elevatelifecoaching.org. She has a great newsletter, by the way, and you can buy a copy of your book on the website, right?
Yes.
And it's perfectly normal. And it's a perfectly great book, too. It's not just perfectly normal, it's perfectly great. So, Michelle, are there any other way that folks can connect with you?
Yeah, they can also find me on Instagram at Elevate Life Coach, or they can just send me an email at michelle.kuei@gmail.com.
Well, that's great. So, Michelle Kuei, this has been wonderful for me. You're so inspiring. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Godspeed.
Thank you.
If you're interested in being a guest on Beyond a Pale, the podcast, please visit beyondapale.blog/guest.